Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make the beautiful floralless crochet tank top, bead vest. You can call it a vest. And this has a beautiful floralless crochet pattern, and it can be matched with our previous crochet granny stitch shorts that already have a tutorial as well as a written pattern on all my online shops. The top also has a pattern, and if you would like to grab a copy, please check the description box as well as on the screen. I'll be leaving behind a link for you to get a copy for yourself. So I am using this vibrant yellow color, and it's from Performance Yarns. It is 100% cotton, and it's called Cotton 8 in the color bright yellow. So each ball is approximately 175 meters. I used a little over one ball. So the second ball just literally worked on the straps. So just to be on a safe side, you can have two balls, especially for the larger sizes. I did for a size medium, so definitely for a small, you may just need one ball and it may be enough. This is color 1040. And it's a very beautiful shade of yellow. So that's what we are going to use today, and it's the same exact shade that features into the crochet granny stitch shorts. That's why I decided to pair them up together to get this beautiful matching set. So this is the yarn that I am using, and then you'll also need a measuring tape. I used a 3mm crochet hook. You'll need a darning needle and a pair of scissors, maybe some stitch markers if you wish, but they are totally optional. So this piece is worked in 4 panels that are later on joined, and then we start working the length of our tank top. And it's also inspired by my previous Crochet Viva tank top that you people have loved over the years. I think it's been 3 years, and it's one of my best-selling crochet patterns on all my online shops. So this is also something that you maybe will fall in love with, and if you happen to create this beautiful tank top, please make sure you tag me. And it also features a beautiful trim at the base of the tank top. That's actually the highlight of this design for me, and I can't wait to see the recreations of this design in different colors. All right, so you're going to get your 3mm crochet hook, and you're going to start off with a slip knot. This is going to be the very first panel. You're going to start with a slip knot, and you're going to make a chain of 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And for row 1, you're going to go into the very first chain with a treble crochet. So for a treble, you're going to yarn over twice, and you're going to go into the very first chain of the chain 10, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So this is what your row 1 will look like. Let's go on to row 2. For row 2, you're going to start off with a chain of 8, which counts as a treble crochet, chain 4. Turn your work into this chain space. You're going to place 1 single crochet, and then you're going to make a chain of 4, and then treble crochet into the same exact space. So yarn over twice and go into the space with a treble crochet. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So this is what your row 2 will look like. Row 3, you're going to make a chain of 1, turn your work into the very first stitch. You're going to go in there with a single crochet, and then make a chain of 3. Then we're going to create a V-stitch into the next single crochet, and for a V-stitch for this pattern, it's 1 treble, chain 5, another treble. So prepare for a treble crochet, go into the single crochet stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 5, and then another treble. So yarn over twice, insert your hook into the same single crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So we've just placed a V stitch into the single crochet, and then you're going to make a chain of 3 and go into the last chain 8 space with a single crochet, and that marks the end of row 3. This is what your work will look like. Row 4, we're going to make a chain of 10, turn your work, treble crochet into the very first single crochet, that very single crochet that is attached to the chain 10. So yarn over twice and treble crochet into the single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet into the chain 5 space, the V stitch. So into the chain 5 space, you're going to place a single crochet, chain 3, and treble crochet, V stitch into the last single crochet of the previous row. So skip over all this, and the last single crochet is here. You're going to place a V stitch, and as I had mentioned earlier on, a V stitch is 1 treble crochet, chain 5, and another treble crochet into the same exact stitch. So this is what your row 4 will look like. We're going on to row 5. You're going to start off with a chain of 8, turn your work into the very first chain 5 space. You're going to place 1 single crochet, chain 3, V stitch into the next single crochet. So a V stitch is 1 treble crochet, chain 5, and another treble crochet into the same stitch. So this is what you'll have. We've placed a V stitch into this single crochet here, and then you're going to make a chain of 3 and single crochet into this last chain 10 space, and then you're going to make a chain of 4 and treble crochet into the same chain 10 space. And just like that, we are through with row 5. This is what your work will look like. Row 6. Row 6, you're going to start with a chain of 1, turn your work. Into that very stitch, you're going to place a single crochet, and then make a chain of 3, V stitch into the next single crochet, which is this one. So 1 treble, chain 5, and another treble crochet into the same exact single crochet, and then you're going to make a chain of 3, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 3, V stitch into the next single crochet, and by now you know how to V stitch, chain 5 and another treble into the same single crochet, just like that. And then you're going to make a chain of 3 and single crochet in the last chain 8 space. So this is what you're going to have for row 6. Now we're going on to row 7, and for row 7, let me see. Yes, row 7, you're going to start off with a chain of 10 and turn your work into the very first single crochet that's attached to the chain 10. You're going to place a treble crochet there, and then make a chain of 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet, so 1 treble crochet, chain 5, and another treble crochet into the same exact single crochet stitch, and then make a chain of 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the last single crochet of the previous row. So 1 treble crochet, chain 5, and another treble crochet. So that's a V-stitch at the end. So you can see how our triangular shape is being formed. This is the end of row 7. Now we're going to start doing our repeat rows. Pay attention, because from now on, these are the rows that we're going to keep repeating. So for row 8, which is our first repeat row, you're going to make a chain of 8 and turn your work. Into the very first chain 5 space, you're going to place a single crochet, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and another treble crochet into the same single crochet. So that's our V-stitch, and then make a chain of 3 and single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the last chain 10 space, and then make a chain of 4 and treble crochet into the same exact space. So that marks the end of row 8. This is what your work should look like. Now we're going on to row 9, which is our second repeat row. For row 9, you're going to start off with a chain of 1 and turn your work, single crochet into that very stitch, the very first stitch, and you're going to make a chain of 3 and V-stitch into the next single crochet, okay, chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. So you can see how it gets easier when it comes to the middle of the rows. You just keep placing a V-stitch in each single crochet and a single crochet in each V-stitch from the previous row. So making sure that you always separate with a chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch of the previous row, and then make a chain of 3 and V-stitch into the next single crochet of the previous row. So you can see how easy that is. The only difference is when it comes to the beginning and the end of the row, that's where the changes are made. But for the middle part, we just maintain the pattern. So after the V-stitch in the last single crochet of the previous row, you're going to make a chain of 3 and single crochet into the last chain 8 space. So this marks the end of row 9. This is what your work should look like. Now we're going on to row 10. You're going to make a chain of 10 and turn your work into the very first stitch that's attached to the chain 10. You're going to place a treble crochet, just like that, and then start your repeat. Chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. So I hope the pattern is getting easier. Okay, chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch of the previous row, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet of the previous row. Chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, and V-stitch into the last single crochet of the previous row. So this marks the end of row 10. And now we're going to keep repeating rows 8 to 10, 8, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, again and again until the base of our triangle measures quarter of our bust circumference. And you should end on a row that looks like row 9, the one that starts and ends with a single crochet. So that's the row that you're supposed to end with. Just keep repeating rows 8, 9, 10, but make sure you end on a row that starts and ends with a single crochet. So that row should look like row 9. So I'm going to go ahead and keep repeating my rows 8 to 10 again and again. So chain 8, single crochet here into the first chain 5 space. So I'll have timestamps so that you can follow along easily. Alright guys, I ended up doing a total of 12 rows and this gave me quarter of my bust circumference. If you want a loose fitting, then you're going to consider this measurement without stretching. If you want a tight fitting, then you're going to consider this measurement with a slight stretch. So for me, I have about 8 inches, but when slightly stretched, it can get to 9 inches. So this should be able to work from a measurement of about 32 inches to 36 inches. I've ended with a row that starts and ends with a single crochet. So from here, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. And this is what you're going to have. This is what your work will look like. Now, once you figure out the very first panel, you're going to go ahead and make a total of 4 more panels, 3 more panels to make a total of 4. So 3 more panels for the front and back to make a total of 4 panels. So for me, my 4th is here. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. But when it comes to the end of the 4th panel, don't cut your yarn. Just leave it attached to the yarn ball. And let's first put this away, the 4th panel. And you're going to place your panels like this, all with the tail facing one direction, like that. And then we have our 3rd panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch. I'm going to go into the last stitch here and then slip stitch into the single crochet of the next panel and then make a chain of 1. And that way we have attached 2 panels. And then you're going to do the same exact thing for your next 2 panels. So the 2nd and the 3rd, attach, make a chain of 1, and then chain 1, pull through. So right now we've attached, let me try to zoom out. We've attached 3 panels. And now we're going to go ahead and attach the fourth. So you see this? The tail is here, and then the yarn is still attached on this side. So go ahead and attach with this tail that you left behind. Go into the single crochet stitch of this last panel and attach it. Okay, so now we have 4 panels that are attached. Now you're going to fold it over like this, and you're going to attach. Now we are attaching into a round, so we're going to go into the single crochet here with a slip stitch. So that way we have created a round, as you can see. Okay, let me try to. Okay, so this is our round, and we're going to keep working around and around, creating the length that we want for our piece. So if we get our measuring tape right now, we just want to make sure that this is going to fit. And when we take a measurement across, we have about 16.5 inches without stretching, but when slightly stretched, it can get to 18 inches. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start working in rounds to create the length of our piece. All right, now we're going to start working in rounds, and you're going to make use of a stitch marker. This is going to help us mark the beginning and the end of our rounds. So for round 1, now that we've created a slip stitch here, you're going to make a chain of 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Actually, I think I should have the same line in the middle, back of my piece. So I'm going to arrange my work like this. So after your chain of 10, you're going to turn your work around so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. Prepare for a treble crochet, and you're going to go into this single crochet here on the next panel, and you're going to place a treble crochet there. Then you're going to make a chain of 3, single crochet into the next treble crochet, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. So that's a treble, chain 5, and another treble into the same exact single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. So you can see how the pattern resembles exactly what we've been doing before. The only difference here is now we are working across all panels. And I'm placing my work like this so that I don't flip over any panel. Chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. Chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, and now we've reached this point where the 2 panels join. So you're going to make a chain of 3, and we're going to go to that point where the 2 panels meet, and we're going to place a treble crochet in this last single crochet of this panel, chain 5, and a treble crochet in the last single crochet of the next panel. So that way we have created a V-stitch, just like we did at this point. So that's what you're going to do all the way around. Now that you know what to do when it comes to the points where the two panels meet, you're just going to continue to make a chain of 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet. And by now you know what a single crochet is and a V-stitch for this pattern. So you're going to be very careful when it comes to round 1 of the pattern, but after that you can lift up your work and work your project comfortably. So we've reached the joining of the 2 panels, the next 2 panels. So we're going to just do the same exact thing, a treble crochet on one side and then chain 5 and a treble on the other side. And that way we've created a V-stitch in the middle of the 2 panels. So go ahead and finish up round 1 and I'll meet you back towards the end and show you how to wind up. Alright, so we've come to the end of the round and I've placed a single crochet in the last V-stitch. And then I'm going to make a chain of 3 and slip stitch into the 5th chain, counting from the base of the chain 10. So into the 5th chain I'm going to place a slip stitch. So that's how we wind up our round. And now we're going to go on to round 2. This is going to be much easier because we've already created the structure for the piece. Now we don't have any pieces that can flip over after this round. So we're going to go on to round 2, and for round 2 you're going to slip stitch 2 times into the V-stitch. You're going to make a chain of 1 and single crochet into the same space, and then make a chain of 3 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And then you're going to treble crochet, chain 5, treble crochet into the next single crochet, which is a V-stitch. So V-stitch into the next single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch, chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet, and then chain 3 and single crochet into the next V-stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way around until you come back to the beginning of the round. So you can place a stitch marker into this very first single crochet that you made before turning your work. This will be the beginning of the round. It's very easy to miss this point because the pattern can get a little bit confusing. So mark this and go all the way around repeating your pattern until you come towards the end of the round, and I'll show you how to wind up. Alright, so I've come to the end of round 2 and I've just placed a V-stitch into the last single crochet of the previous round. Now I'm going to make a chain of 3 and slip stitch into this single crochet. So you're going to remove your stitch marker and make a slip stitch there, and that marks the end of round 2. Round 3 is going to be quite different. You're going to start off with a chain of 10, turn your work, and into the same exact spot you're going to place a treble crochet, and that will create our very first V-stitch of the round. And then you're going to mark the beginning of the round with a stitch marker and just place it into the chain 10 space, and then continue with your pattern, chain 3 and single crochet into the next chain 5 space, or the next V-stitch of the previous round. So chain 3, V-stitch into the next single crochet of the previous round. Chain 3, single crochet into the next V-stitch of the previous round. So you're going to just go ahead and keep alternating between V-stitch and single crochet, and making sure you separate everything with a chain 3 space until you come back to the beginning of the round, and I'll show you how to wind up. Alright, so we've come to the end of round 3, and I've just placed a single crochet in the last V-stitch of the previous round, and you're going to make a chain of 3, slip stitch into the 5th chain, counting from the base of the chain 10, 1 2 3 4 5, and into the 5th you're going to just make a slip stitch. So from now on you're just going to repeat rounds 2 and 3. I'll be leaving timestamps, and you can see how our piece is taking shape. This is what we have. I'm going to keep working until I have my desired length, repeating rounds 2 and 3 until I have my desired length, and I'll be back to show you what I'll have. Alright guys, I've just come to the end of my last round, and I've done a total of 1 2 3 4 5 6, a total of 12 rounds after joining into the round. So for my very first round I have a total of 12 rounds, and if I take a measurement from the v-neck, the lowest part of the v-neck up to the end, I have a total of about 8 inches, and that's enough. If you want yours a bit longer, just keep repeating your rounds until you get the length that you need for your tank top. And now we are going to go ahead and create an edging at the base of the top. So where you stopped, you're going to end with a round that looks like round 2, I believe. Yeah, a round that looks like round 2, or a round that ends with a slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the previous round. So this is what we have, and now we're going to create an edging. And to create that edging, you're going to after the slip stitch here, make sure you're working on the right side of your work. So into the V-stitch you're going to place a total of 1 2 3 4 5 double crochets, and then you're going to make a chain of 3, and then slip stitch at the base of the last double crochet that you just placed, and then place 5 more double crochets into the same exact space. 2 3 4 and 5. So this is what you're going to end up with, and then you're going to go into the next single crochet with a single crochet, and just like that we've created this sort of edging into the very first V-stitch. We're going to go all the way around repeating this and creating an edging for our top. So let's go ahead into the next V-stitch, which is here. You're going to go in there with a total of 5 double crochets, 2, 3, 4, and 5, chain 3, slip stitch at the base. You see those 2 loops? You're going to slip stitch into them, and then 5 more double crochets into the same exact space. And just like that, we have this, and we're going to go into the next single crochet with a single crochet. Five double crochets into the next V-stitch. Chain 3, slip stitch at the base of the previous double crochet, 5 more double crochets into the same space. And then try to distribute the stitches in the middle of the V-stitch, and then single crochet into the next single crochet. So you can see what we have at the base of our piece. You're going to repeat this all the way around, and I'll meet you back when that's done. Alright guys, I've made it all the way around, and guess what? We are almost done with the very first ball of yarn. I've literally used 1 ball of yarn for the whole project, and this is all that's left from the whole ball. This is all that's left. I'm hoping that it can get through for my straps, the top of the straps. When you come to the end of the edging, which creates a very lovely effect, you can pull on them a little bit so that they kind of stick out. This is what the base of our piece is going to look like. Now you're going to go into the very first point where the round started from and make a slip stitch, and then make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and that marks the end of the base edging of our piece. So this is what we have on both ends. You're going to have these beautiful scallops. So you're going to place your work like this, and we're going to go onto the top of our piece. You're going to try it on and see whether you need to adjust the length of your straps a little bit. If you need to create some length, you can go ahead and make a chain and attach it to the other side. You can play around with the straps a little bit, but for me, this is actually fine. I think I'm going to do something really small when it comes to the top because I don't want this to drop so much. Actually, let me get another ball of yarn so that we can work on the straps. But this is what we have for now. The general structure of the top has been achieved, and now we're going to go onto the strap section and we do our thing, and then we shall be through with our piece. All right, so when it comes to the straps, I'm going to grab my yarn, make a slip knot, and we're going to go onto the top of our piece. Now we have these tails going on here, just ignore them. We shall get rid of them when we are weaving in the ends. You're going to go into this very first space of row 1 of our brackets, or the top section of our piece. You're going to go into that space and attach your yarn just like that, and then you're going to make a chain of 3 and double crochet into the same space. Most of you guys know how I create my straps for my pieces. So chain 3 and double crochet into the space below the 2 stitches from the row below, just like that. Chain 3, double crochet into the space between the stitches below. So this is going to kind of elongate the upper part of our piece and also create the strap. So chain 3, double crochet into the space, chain 3, and double crochet into the space in between the 2 stitches below. So this is going to kind of create segments, but also creating thick straps for our piece. So I'm going to do a total of 7, but you can go ahead and make as many segments as you wish for your top. So these are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 segments. And we're going to attach them into this very first hole on the opposite panel with a slip stitch. So just like that, you're going to make sure your piece is not twisted. So this is what we have. Now you're going to slip stitch into the same space here. You're going to slip stitch 2 times, 1 and 2, and then you're going to turn your work so that you're working on this side of the strap. So you're going to make a chain of 3 and single crochet into the very first segment, just like that. Actually, make sure your piece is not twisted. I don't know how I'm going to do that right now, but I'm going to just turn my work so that I'm working on this side, making sure that the pieces are not twisted. So after your chain of 3, you're going to go into this segment with a single crochet, and then make a chain of 3 and single crochet into the next segment, just like that. Chain 3, single crochet into the next segment. So you can see we're kind of making the strap thicker. Chain 3, single crochet into the next segment of the strap, and you're going to repeat that until you get back to the opposite panel. So we're back here, and I'm going to make a chain of 3 and slip stitch into the first hole of the panel here where we attached our strap. So make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn and then pull through. So if you would like to know the length of my strap, I have about 5 inches, and that is totally fine because this is already thin enough. It's more like the strap is just transitioning and creating increases. So I didn't want to create a very long strap extension so that I really drop this V-neck. So you're going to try it on. You're going to try on your top before you create the straps and figure out the length of your strap, how long the length of your strap should be. This may vary depending on our body types, but for me, I've done a strap of about 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact process for the opposite side, just like I did for the first side. So we are creating our strap again, and this time it should be a walkover. Before we were just trying to figure it out, but now we know exactly what to do. So just watch me make my second strap the same way that I did the first one. Alright guys, we are done with our second strap, and this is what our tank top looks like. Look how beautiful these straps are. They're really sturdy, they are thick, but also they have some sort of design to them. So we're going to get rid of all these loose ends, find a way of getting rid of the loose ends. You can use a darning needle. You can just make a knot if you wish. For me, I think I'm going to go with the knot wherever I have two ends meeting, because this is a lacy pattern and I don't believe that a darning needle will do me justice. So I'm going to just make a knot wherever I find two tails meeting at the same point. Maybe a double knot or a triple knot to even make it more secure. So go ahead and do what you have to do to get rid of these loose ends lying around your piece. And this is what you're going to end up with. See how clean it is? And you can see how, what I was talking about, the extension, the pattern itself is more like an extension of the strap. So make sure you don't make a very long strap for your piece. So this one only has one tail, and I'm going to use a darning needle and find a way of weaving it into several stitches in order to get rid of it. But make sure it's well secured. Okay. So get rid of all the loose ends on your piece, and we're going to see the final look of our beautiful tank top. So after getting rid of the loose ends on the straps, this is what your work is going to look like. And now we're going to go ahead and get rid of the loose ends at the joining of the panels. Remember those loose ends that we had when we joined the panels together? Find a way of getting rid of them, weave them in so that we can have a neat finish. Alright guys, this is what the final look of our piece is, and if you enjoyed the tutorial, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and let's see the final look of our project. Don't forget to grab yourself a written pattern, a copy of the written pattern if you want one. I'll be leaving the link to the pattern behind in the description box. And I hope you loved this design as much as you love the Viva tank top. I can't wait to see your recreations of this design, and I will definitely see you in my next one. Thanks for watching and have a lovely week. Bye guys.